Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. I am your host and life coach, Dion Thompson. All right, let's meet my guest this week, Sheila Adels. Now, Sheila is a sexual health advocate and a firm believer that tapping into and grounding fully inside one's sensual self is the key to unlocking self-love and confidence. She knows that denying that part of ourselves can lead to fissures in our being, which for her caused depression, identity crisis, and multiple suicidal lows. By reconnecting to her sexuality, she was able to glue the pieces of her soul back together. Now she shares her wisdom and helps to empower women all over the world. Welcome, Sheila, to the podcast.
Thank you.
You know, when we met, feels like many moons ago, although, again, I've said this before, time is like going on fast forward and rewind all at the same time. So when we met, I instantly knew that you were my person. You have such a warmth and beautiful energy about you. And you are openly fucked up like the rest of us, which I think is the most important feature of an authentic human being, is that we acknowledge and recognize that we have the lows, we have the highs, we're up, we're down, we're sideways, and we're fucking awesome through all of it. And that is something that I see you advocating for women in your community and in the work that we do together in our community. And I just love that. I love everything about you. And even though, like I said, you're on the other side of the continent, I feel you. And I'm so grateful that you have agreed to come and chat a little bit about your journey. So now you are helping women to release some baggage and really tune into their bodies and their sense of self and develop a deeper sense of self-love. And I know that that wasn't always the case for you, and that you had done some of that really deep work to get to this place. So I'd love for you to share with us today a little bit about your journey and what brought you from sort of some behind the scenes, not so great small townness to, and we might even talk about the ladybug infestation, but that's another thing, to the empowering leader that you are today.
Well, I would say first off, it definitely wasn't a all at once journey.
Can everybody hear that? It's not an all at once journey. This is true for all. Like, yes, we package it up nice here on the podcast and be like, this is the thing that happened, and then I got like great. No, it's a bumpy in and out, back and forth, up and down road, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm almost to my 38th birthday, and to be honest, I would have thought I had handled my shit by now. Getting up in years, I'm like, wow, you don't have this figured out by now. I mean, don't other people have it figured out by the time they're, in their 20s and whatnot? And for a very long time, I always considered myself like behind the ball. Everybody was somehow way ahead of me, and really what I found out was everybody was lying and nobody has that shit together, and I'm right there with everybody. We're all just trying to put on a face so that nobody sees all the shit that's going on behind the scenes. And I think that is a huge root of why so many of us are struggling, is because of that lack of just open this is what's going on, like I have this sense, and maybe it's not true, but everything I've ever read it was true, as far as like if we went back to more of like when people were in smaller groupings and whatnot, there wasn't a lot you could hide. Like you knew everybody's shit, everybody was talking about it, the women gathered together and everybody was talking and supporting, and that's how it went. And now we don't really have that. And So for me, my journey kind of was a getting to the point where I was just so fucking pissed at being in this spot I was in. And I didn't want to move any further and potentially hurt other people because of the shit that I was dealing with. And I think that was more of my fear at first, was generally has always been, who's this going to affect? And that kept me from, hurting myself more than I did. And making a lot of the moves was because I was like, oh, someone's gonna hurt them, it's gonna hurt their feelings or whatnot. And when I met my husband, we had a very we were best friends way before, and we had a kind of an open honesty pact about ourselves that we kind of laid our shit on the table, just as best friends. And he was the first person that knew any of the things that I was struggling with. And that told me, in my sense, like, that was the first time I ever felt like I could take a breath and be like, oh my God, I don't want to hold that, like the secrets, the pilings, like putting on the faces of everything being okay. And I think so when he was the catalyst of in that moment of showing me that things could be different. I think that was the main thing. And I think that a lot of us go through so much with thinking it is the norm and this is never going to change. And I think that's where, unfortunately, a lot of people will go through their life feeling just kind of following the path, and not realizing that there can be something different and available to you, beyond what you are experiencing. It doesn't have to be that way. For me, I just genuinely didn't know anything could be any different. I thought this was how it is, and I felt 90% sure that it was all my fault in every way, and that I was just like made wrong. And so that kind of was like a catalyst of like a crack open door of like, interesting. And so I started allowing myself to ask questions at that point. And and that was I'd say I was 23 or something, maybe about that point. And I started actually allowing myself in secret, not in public, but asking myself questions like, can I ask this? Is this allowed to say these things or ask these questions or doubt about this being the right way? And it kind of started putting, I don't know, like little feelers out there to kind of see what could be different, how I could go about something and change it. And I think it put a little bit of a hope in me because it kept me, I would still go into like parts of depression and whatnot, periods, but I knew that I had felt something different. And I knew, and I think that's what it was, is I could go back to that moment and go, but it was different here. Why?
Right.
And that's when I started realizing like a lot of it is just opening up the protective doors on ourselves and being honest with somebody and having someone understand you on that level was something that removed, I don't know, so much of the shit, enough so way you could see, like you just have shit all over your face and you're just like peeling it off your eyes like, oh wait, there's other stuff out here. That's kind of what it genuinely felt like that. And we were friends off and on for years, like for 5 or 6 years before we even before I even started dating him. But it was a huge catalyst, and then in those 5 years was a huge changing point in my life with things being forced. I don't know how to say that. I put myself in a lot of situations wanting change, and from that cracked me open more throughout my journey. Every place that I would go like, oh, I think this place is the answer, and I felt like I was drawn to go that way, and it was something that I usually didn't do. I did not follow my intuition in things very much because because I was just following what I was told to do,
Right.
and going on the road. So when I started doing that, things started happening and like cracking open, and in not a very good way. So
Right.
I thought of it as being, well, this is shit, and I obviously chose the wrong path, and I can't even trust myself now. So yay, flag. And in reality, it was like it was like being put in those places so that it could crack off more of that exterior stuff that got me more and more angry and wanting something different. It put me in like little pressure cooker kind of situations, and getting out of those situations and on the other side of it, I was just like, I don't even know what to believe anymore. I don't know what's going on. I need to find something different. And so it was kind of like a series. I mean, there was so much. I could go on for hours, so if I ramble, please just stop me, because I'm a rambler. But um it really was like a culmination of a lot of things. The one common thing through all of it was that when I was younger, I very much severed parts of myself into little boxes, and I did not feel seen and understood at all, at all, at all. And so I kind of just became like the quiet, a wallflower kind of person. If I talk to people, most of the time, adults were the only ones that I talked to, not kids. And I just kind of severed little pieces of myself. And my sexuality and stuff was something that was just severed from the beginning, because nobody talked about it. You weren't allowed. I didn't even feel like I could touch myself and be okay, that it was like a very, very shameful thing. And I remember having a conversation with a friend who mentioned just having a shower, and she had a loofah. And um, I didn't know what a loofah was, because we just use soap in our hands. I'm like, what is that? And she's like, what's a loofah? You wash yourself. And I was like, oh. And she's like, well, what do you wash yourself? And I was like, my hands. And she's like, you just wash yourself with your hands? Like, you just like touch yourself? I'm like, yes. Is it a bad thing? Should
Right.
I not be? And that was in high school. So granted, maybe I was around the wrong people.
Well, we only know what we know, and of course, if everybody in our little bubble kind of knows the same thing, and we're just feeding off of and into each other constantly, like it like you said before, this is just what it is. This is normal. This is how life is, and even though parts of it feel wrong, and then we cut those parts off. When those are actually the parts are probably right, but we're not listening to them. And I can vividly envision that experience and being like, oh God, the one thing that I thought I was doing okay was bathing, and no, I can't even do, like, that's wrong. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just had this I had an obsession with bodies at the same time that I felt extreme shame over everything. So it caused that rift in me where everything felt shameful. And so then you carry those things of just, well, I just must be the dirtiest person in the world, because I also liked to draw and whatnot growing up. And I remember sneaking a drawing book and it had bodies in it, and a drawing like human bodies and stuff. And I got ratted out that I was doing it, and made fun because Sheila's drawing naked people, and it's like, can I just draw a person? Can I draw a boob? Because I like boobs and I think they're beautiful. you know, it's just like,
It's obviously, like, looking now at that situation from like some of the most famous, most prolific, brilliant artists of the world were drawing naked people, right? Like, so your affinity to the beauty of the human being, the human body, we know now is extremely natural. If anything, it's just a much deeper connection to self as a result. But I'm 100% with you. Like, everything having to do with, like, from my eyeballs down was kind of off limits. And that was it. Like, the only thing that mattered, kind of what was going on in your head, but even then, not really, because small, quiet, safe, teeny tiny, do your
yes.
job. clean the things. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm projecting now. I'm projecting all my my crap and my shame.
No, it's so true though. It's like it does. It goes from those small things, and then your mind will take off and go in whatever direction it thinks. Then now that's going to be your belief. Your whatever you've been even slightly shown. And the women in my life were very self-conscious and lots of dieting and lots of not comfortable with their bodies anyway. So it definitely, adds up. As children, we're, even at a young age, we're thinking about all the things. We know all the things. We're even my son does this, and I can just see it behind his eyes. He's just thinking of all the million possibilities of what I'm talking about and all of it. And it's like, I know that's what I was doing, and put together this view of that. Okay, well, obviously, this is bad, and I can't be looking at these. I can't be drawing these things. I shouldn't be touching myself, let alone looking at myself. And it just created this thing of, that's just how it was. And we didn't, unfortunately, I missed out on sex ed in my, was homeschooled. And then in the school that I was in, I was taking economics at the time. So I did not actually, I remember my husband, and he's like, well, how, because I got married when I was 27, and I still didn't know really what was what was going on, and how everything quite worked, because I was under the understanding that even drawing, like even when I was doing with drawing people, that was pretty much porn. So because I was just drawing naked people, and you can't be doing that. Well, so I didn't even, he's like, well, you've never like Googled something or anything like that? I was like, no, because I would somebody would know.
Yeah.
They would know. And I would, even if I binged, what is this? I would be like, my mom would check my computer, or something would happen.
Something would happen. There'd be like a burning somewhere. There'd be some kind of like implosion, like a death. Yeah. Like the fear is clearly valid in the experience, and fucking so irrational that we can't even see how irrational it is, right? Like the world will end. Don't you know that's what will happen? The world will end.
Oh, I know. I lived alone. Like I'm freaking like 25, 26. Like who's gonna come into my apartment, and like who cares? I mean, I should be able to watch whatever movie or whatever thing, or look up whatever, or read a book. I couldn't even go to the library and go down the aisles that had sexual health on it. It was like, oh my God, someone's gonna see me here. And I would just grab a book and run around the corner to like a safe section that I could like open, and then I'm like doing the look around the corner. I mean, that's pretty sad. That's how my mind though was like, literally I was doing something so bad and evil and shameful that God forbid anybody see me.
And it's definitely not sad in that it is all that you could do, right? It's all that there was available. And we both know that anything laden with any ounce of shame instantly becomes silent. And you, when you think about it, whatever it is, you are 1,000% alone on this, like in your mind, right? There's nobody else on the planet who's experiencing this, because I am the only one who is this bad. I'm air quoting here for the people who can't see. And I can feel, I don't have the same experience, but I can feel that moment of like, right. And all of a sudden you develop eyeballs all over your body, trying to see where people are and what they might think. And then your brain just starts going, and yet there's still a draw. There's still something pulling you in that direction. And looking back now, your brain's telling you it's because you're dirty, you're bad, or whatever the words are. I don't want to put words there, but
no, you're right.
but now I look at that and go, that was like, that's your highest self. That's your most loving, your most attuned, your most aligned, your high vibe being, who is like, you have a body. Yes. You're allowed to look at it. You're allowed to learn about it, right? But of course, it can't speak to you in that way because your inner critic's too busy taking over the show. And so it behaves through you. So tell me a little bit more about, as you started, and whether it was through the some of the friendship with your husband before he was your husband, and some of your own exploration and curiosity. But when did you start to start taking steps towards this idea that your sense of self-exploration was maybe an okay thing, as opposed to being so deeply entrenched and entrained in shame?
I think when I started, it was a couple years before I got married. It was after I got back from all the shithole camp. Like I went to a really toxic internship and a couple of things. I had couple years that I didn't live here in the state, and I lived in the South, and I did some stuff over there. And when I got back from all that kind of crazy, I was in that questioning and like kind of just contemplating things. I didn't have a job at the time for a little bit, and so I was just kind of left to just kind of think. And one thing that just kept coming back to me was just that that we have bodies for a reason, and that here I am, I'm sitting here at like at that time I was like 26 or 25 or 26, and my body having any type of, as it is, any type of hormonal responses and sexual responses and wants and desires was completely normal, because that's who I am. That's a part of my being. And it kind of just like started entertaining the notion of like, if this is who I am, okay, then how do I marry this with what is going on? How do I figure out how this connects, or does it not connect, or do I have to sever that part of my life off? I was very much into like severing. I'm a very much, I don't know why in my mind I felt it was very much black or white. Like it very much like you either cut this off completely, or you embrace this, or you cut that off completely, or you embrace this. And that's just how we are raised, I feel like. And so in my mind I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. Like I just don't know how to do this, like do both the things. And I was I've been in church, raised in church, whatever. And up until the shit in the South, I was a part of one. So it was very much ingrained. I don't even know how to tell you like so deeply into my brain, that stuff. So when I say like separation, that's where I was hitting the walls, was that I don't know how to marry this, because nobody in the church seems to have any kind of feeling at all regarding this. And there's no talking about it. There's just the, well, you meet a person and hopefully you'll get married before you go sleep around. I don't know. I was getting close to my 30s and I was a pretty horny individual. Let's just be real. Okay. Like you got some feelings you got going on, and you just cannot my mind was going like crazy. And so I just started entertaining more of like, I don't know how I can sever this. Like, cause in my mind, I'd failed at all the times of cutting that part of me off. So going forward was going to have to be different, because otherwise it's just going to be one giant failure from here forward of like shame, constant. And when I entertained the idea of dating my husband, who had asked me out for a million times in the time, my thing that stopped me was that I obviously was like super attracted to him. But he wasn't a Christian, and he didn't go to our church and didn't anything like that. And I felt in every part of my being drawn to him. But I felt like if I went with him, I would have to sever off the church part then too. And I didn't know what to do about that, because that was kind of like my identity, like I had made that part of me, even though I didn't really feel like it was part of me. So it was a huge kind of step. And once I took that step, and I remember saying yes and going out on just one date. And it was the first date I'd had in like 11 years. And I didn't even know what to do. We went to a coffee shop. It was nothing like crazy. But I just remember a shift, because I had made a choice towards that part of me that had that longing, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know how to like word it any other than that. I felt like my body had been, like you said, trying to draw me back and recognizing that like, hey, I'm here. You can't, like, you need me. You need me, and you can't, it's not going to be good without me. And the more that I separated myself from that, the worse things seemed to get. And it did, mentally for sure, but everything else as well. And so once I made a shift in the direction of like following my intuition and like, I've been wanting to date this guy for years and I've held off because of this one thing. I'm just going to do it because what's going to happen? Am I going to die? Like, I could go on one date. It'll be okay. I was terrified, but I did it. And I felt this like just a burden being lifted off. Like I can do things. And that sounds so silly to some people, I think, because it seems like the most simple thing to just make a decision for yourself. But I just could not. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself in any form, let alone making decisions, because I felt like when I made decisions, everything went to shit. And so to make a decision revolving around like something that I was whole body wanted was very scary for me. And so once I did that, I felt like a shift in it. I knew that I could completely trust him. And so that was the one thing that I latched onto, was that I didn't have to worry because I knew I would be safe. And so I just ran with it. And the minute I did that, um, things started just kind of unraveling and just kind of let go, because I realized I could, like I had that option. And all these years, I didn't think I had an option of letting go of the shit. Like I was just carrying it around for years and years. And it was so fucking heavy, so heavy. And I mean, obviously heavy enough that I was like having depression and suicidal different periods through, it was heavy. I couldn't carry all that shit. And once I started like taking little steps towards what my whole soul wanted, intuition, everything, every part of me was vibrating towards that. That's what it wanted. And once I said, okay, fine, we'll just take it one step that way, it was just like things just started shattering and like falling off. And I realized I was able to like even see clear of like what I didn't need and what I did want. And I can make choices, and I'm a big girl. I can do this. And I felt like I was like this 12-year-old in, a 26-year-old body. And I was like learning, literally learning all over. And so I feel like I was like the little baby foal walking around and experimenting and like, okay, I can make decisions. Hey, you know what? I can choose where I want to eat. I know that's a huge thing with women, is that like, oh, they never know where they want to eat. I didn't feel like I could make the decision. I didn't know that I could, if I wanted to get a different car, I could get a different car. I didn't know that I could, like do the things. Like if you want to buy the shirt, buy the shirt. Do you like the shirt? Just buy the shirt. Nobody's stopping you from buying the shirt. It seems like, I don't know, silly, but it's real. It's real.
Is so real. And I guarantee, I clearly don't know who's listening to this right now, but I guarantee there is a whole bunch of heads going, oh my God, yes. The conditioning and the environments that we grew up in, and whether it's inside a church or not, or just whatever the environment is and the belief systems around that environment, and then add in the overarching sort of country, state, planet, all of that sort of idea around blocking the true essence and power of like feminine energy. And I'm not talking just about women. I'm talking about that space of powerful sensuality and creativity and that knowing and the nurturing of self and others, and inside of that having this strength to like, you know, both you and I are in a book club, and Women Who Run with the Wolves, and talking about that warrior energy that lives within us, that is just so stifled for so long. And so I know it's not just me that's agreeing with you, right? So I'm keen to know how you went from this space of like very crack the door open a smidge, start to allow, start to say yes to yourself, start to believe and trust yourself through what sounds like through the trust you had with your partner. It allowed you to build a more trusting relationship with you, which I think is a really beautiful thing. How did you get to the space where now you are a sexual health advocate and you are helping to empower women to um, explore and love and be with every ounce of their being?
So okay, so one thing before we go in, I had very much felt that through my whatever journey thing, in severing off, like I said, that kind of like feeling, soul, sexual, feminine self, I threw out anything that feminine as well. And so I very much had a very not good relation like with thinking about anything feminine. To me, it equaled weakness and emotion, which I hated my emotion because I was extremely emotional. I still am emotional. That's just who I am. But I saw it as this huge negative thing. And so I would try to do anything I could on the opposite. So when my husband and I got married, I wanted, it was more of like wanting to figure out this whole sex thing.
Mhm.
You know, sex was good. That was great. It was more of like a puzzle kind of thing too. Cause then like okay, it's just my thing, but I like to be, I love things. I love learning. I love learning. I will, and we've talked about this. I'll have like
Yeah.
50 books on something. And so I get in a relationship. I'm thinking, yeah, sex after 30 years, you know, I'm like super excited. I want to be as proficient as possible. I'm trying to think of like all the ways that, like, because I was starting from scratch. I didn't know anything. And
Right.
everything I knew was just where I was learning from him. And so it, I realized that through trial and error that my enjoyment and my I had to let that part of me back in. It even though I had made that step to change and stuff, I still bulk at like the feminine part of that and the sensual side. And so like I didn't know what to do and I was completely disconnected from my body.
Mhm.
So then yes, the sex was good, but it was still disjointed because I still felt like an out of body experience with it. Like I was looking in kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of sparked a trying to figure out how I can reconnect back with me to where I can feel things. Because I do have a sensory perception, like kind of issue with the touching sometimes.
Mhm.
Touching can hurt, especially on my arms and like my thighs and stuff. And I don't like to be super close to people. And so I had a couple hurdles of like figuring out, okay, this is my body. You know, at first it was a pissed at my body. And then it went into like learning why my body is the way that it is. And how can we make this work? Because obviously I was made this way for a reason. And I can totally work with this. I just gotta actually put effort into it like I do other things. And I think that was where it was realized, like, you know, you can do that, right? Again, like if I want to go learn a language or something, I'm gonna go buy books and I'm gonna go do stuff. And as far as getting in tune with my body and sex and how to pleasure works and how it works in the brain or my body, I did the same thing. I got as many books as I physically I had, like constant books, reading stuff and trying to figure things out. And so it wasn't an overnight like journey. It was a kind of figuring out through our marriage what worked and what didn't work. And when I say like we had a very open, honest policy, that is still something that never left. That's always been so even in anything involving sex, we're very open about it. And I think that's how it should be. I it leaves literally no questions. We just, if there's something like you see someone off, you're like, okay, that was kind of weird. That was a little bit off. Like, I don't know if it was me or, and we very much hash it out so that we have everything, all the cards on the table, because I think that when you don't, you instantly invite like doubt, resentment, weird things, questions, and then our mind will just take over. I don't even need to, I just had to plant one thought. Woo!
Yeah.
So I try to, we both, it's very much open, like, hey, this doesn't really work, or this is actually better. Let's do this like this, or, and it seems kind of, I don't know, in my mind, it seems like a very practical thing, but I know a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
So over the course of years, and then also having 2 kids, and dealing with sex involving pregnancy and after pregnancy, that was a whole nother write a book about kind of thing. Nobody talks about that shit either.
Right.
That's not in the what to expect books. But it was very much a tapping into myself, like just a spending time with myself. I don't know how to explain it any more than literally, like, if you have to lay on a bed by yourself and just allow yourself to touch yourself was a huge thing. And forgoing for all those years of feeling so much shame with it, it did take me a long time, rather than, I don't want to be the stiff bored in sex, where I'm just laying there like, I'm having fun, I swear. And I don't know what to do, because I don't know. Touching, oh, should I touch myself? Can I touch myself? Is it weird? I don't know. And so I had to kind of go through a journey of just literally sometimes just laying on the bed and just allowing myself even just to touch my breasts, or or rub my hands or my thighs. Just, it didn't even have to be like super sexual kind of touching. It was just allowing myself to touch my body and look at my body, being able to look in the mirror. If you haven't done the I have a, who is it that does it? Oh my God, I can't remember her name. Has the book Pussy. It was so good. She talks about if you haven't ever taken a hand mirror and looked at yourself and actually looked at your vulva and your vagina. Have you ever done that? Like, have you ever seen like how beautiful you are? Do you realize that it's okay to look? And that was a huge thing for me. It was like, again, like just kind of stepping through those things of where those minefields of thinking that it was something wrong and shameful, and then realizing that I needed to reconnect to myself, whether it was just allowing myself to touch myself. Because if the huge key here is, if I don't know what pleasure is for me, how is my partner going to know? How is he going to know if I can't direct him? Because God knows I don't know what feels good either. Right. So you have to be able to know what you like before you can even bring your partner into this in any way, because they're going to be just doing the best they can, bless them. And we're going to be like, I don't know, there's a lot of things that I don't like. Now I know, before I didn't, and I would just tolerate, and then that makes it to where you're like, well, this just isn't, is this really what I want? Is this, it starts all the mind games, the mind thoughts.
You know what? And so, I want to keep going with this 100%. This made me think about, so many women, and so, the women I work with specifically in my coaching practice, it's about figuring out how to be happy and like what brings them joy. And so, the first question I always ask them is like, well, what do you want? Like, I don't know. Well, what do you do that makes you happy that doesn't involve other people? And they go, oh, well, if it doesn't involve other people, I don't know how to give you an answer, because my life has always been about, if they're happy, I'm happy. So in the same way, when it comes to, you know, a sexual relationship, so many women under the mindset, if they're happy, I'm happy, then so as long as they seem happy, then I should be happy. And we live, like you said, no, I'm having a great time only because you're having a great time. And my brain's telling me that that's my job. Like that's my purpose here, as whatever this is.
Yes.
And the goal for in my world, like this is my mission, is to help people recognize what brings you joy, do more of that, and then show up to the relationship, whatever that is, and be like, I was happy first. I didn't need you. I'm inviting you in. I love you. I want this. This is all more joy to my joy, but you're not giving me the happiness. I'm not going out trying to find it somewhere else. So in the same, that's how I'm envisioning, right? So understanding your own body and what you actually enjoy and are willing to maybe explore more of it. Like, yeah, okay, let's go that direction. That seems to be working, and communicating that. So it's not that you know, their happiness is not where your happiness comes from. You, in that intimate relationship of like intimacy and connection, and it enhances what you're already bringing to the table, like who you and your energy that you're, I say table, it could be a table, it could be a bed, really doesn't matter where you are.
Wherever you want.
That's up to you. But, and so I love that that was something that you had just brought up, because I think it's a really powerful reality and metaphor for the whole experience of what it means to be happy as a woman in this world today.
Yes. I think too, where, you know, we go into so many codependent kind of relationships because we're just clinging to somebody for life because we don't know what to do. And it can be okay in the beginning, but you can't leave things that way. Because I could honestly say that I was very much like that in the beginning with my husband. Because I was clinging to him like a lifeboat. Like I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to drown, I'm pretty sure. But I made sure that I didn't stay there. Because it's a weight on then your partner as well. And is when you're in a relationship, is especially in the sexual, you're gonna, if you are putting everything on them, they're going to feel it. They're going to know that you're not, you may think that they can't tell that you're not into it, but they know that you're not into it. Right. Okay. So the universal thing I think that's attractive for people, I think, is confidence, whether it's in friends, people, whatever. You just get attracted to, you know, that's magnetic. And I think that's the same way, is when you have confidence in yourself and your body, you know what you want and you know what you're bringing to the table, then that releases your partner to be able to just enjoy and be themselves as well. And it's critical. It's critical, I think, for you want that incredible bedroom life. That's what you need to be pushing for, is how can I pleasure myself first and learn myself before I can make this, because it'll be explosive if otherwise. It's going to be amazing, but you have to be able to go, hey, you know. And I think too, that comes from, there's so much stigma around self-masturbation and touching yourself in general, that it's like a porn thing and whatnot. But if you genuinely just look at it from the perspective of, how are you doing this if you don't know yourself? How, in any other situation, you wouldn't do this. If you weren't trained to drive a car, you wouldn't drive a car. If you weren't, you know, like, there's so many, you cannot just say like, oh, it'll be fine, even though I have no idea what I'm doing. I saw a diagram in a book once and we're just going to go, you know. Well, there's a lot more than just the physical in sex, you know, like we're spiritual, like beings. There's a lot of connecting and soul connecting and just in the relationship itself. You have to be able to lock into that. Otherwise, it's going to trickle into every other part of your relationship. Every other part, and that is just you're just gonna feel a weight. And it, like I said, it can open up so many like doubt issues and resentment and things, because it's like, well, he never listens to me, or he never knows what I really want. Have you told him? Right. Have you told your partner what you really want? Do they even know? You know, because sometimes we don't even know what we want. How are they supposed to read our minds? They just get chaos and buzzing because we don't know. But it'd be like one of those static TVs. You know, but It's so true. Like it's a huge deal. And I think that when I'll hear things or be told from other women that I work with about issues or struggles they're dealing with, a lot of it comes down to either open communication and honesty with the partner, flat out. It doesn't matter if it's embarrassing. It doesn't matter if it makes you uncomfortable. If you can't be honest with that person, then you don't have a level of trust there either. And then it's not really safe in that sense either.
And
Why do it?
And I think you bring up a really valid point about trust. Again, you had mentioned it earlier, and I think it's like the root. There's a root of so many things. You want to enhance the relationship. You want to enhance the experience. Trust has to exist with you and the other individual. And in order for it to truly manifest, you have to trust yourself. And so going back to taking that time to learn about you and to explore and experiment and understand,
Yes.
it's also fortifying that trusting relationship you have within. So, you can rely on yourself to show up for yourself, right? You know what your boundaries are and are able to communicate those, of course, because resentment exists when boundaries don't. And so if you're not understanding your own being physically, emotionally, spiritually, then what you bring is a recipe for resentment, because you're asking someone without asking, hey, fill this gap in my life. That was a really bad example.
It's so true though.
Can you please offer me this level of enjoyment? I'm looking to you to make that happen, but I'm giving you zero direction, zero boundaries, zero understanding, zero, zero, zero. And then when you don't, shocker, I will be resentful, not only because you didn't provide for me, but you got happy and I didn't. And now I'm just supposed to be happy because and it goes back to the shame, right? So now I feel ashamed that I can't just be happy because that's what I'm supposed to, but fuck.
Yes.
My children. I don't know where my children are right now, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay. So Sheila, so how do you take this knowledge now? And we just have to pause and talk about books for a hard minute, because you and I had some really great conversations about the book stacks, the constant reading, the multiple books, how to continue to maintain that intellectual and spiritual stimulation through multiple sources. So I know when you said you went and learned, it wasn't like with one or two books. Like you went out and did like the research and what I can only envision is in multiple sort of modalities of sexual health and spiritual health. And I know from chats with you that you look at the experience and as at the being on many levels. So how do you take that information now and share it with women in a way that they can then start to do some of this work for themselves?
Usually the first thing I'll say is that is I give them permission that you can. You are allowed to do this. It's okay. If you want to blame me, that's fine. Blame me and then go buy some books. It's okay to get some stuff. Go read some literature. There's a lot of good books out there of women that are, everything from knowing your anatomy to understanding pleasure to how it works in the brain. I have ones on sexual health after cancer, after abuse. There's never, I don't think, a bad thing to learn about as far as going forward. And then I encourage them to either get a little, you can use anything you have, but I would say get a little bullet vibrator and you lay on your bed and you close your eyes, and you can invite your partner to do this, but you just go all over your body. You start on your face, your neck, and I want them to just record in their mind what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And if you invite your partner into it, then they could do it for you while you close your eyes, and in a very just learning experience way. It doesn't have to turn into this huge sexual thing right off the bat. Whatever you want to do, you can. But for real though, to start off is just being honest and just being like, I don't know what I like, so I want to do an experiment, and really dive into that it's okay to find, because one, if you do have a partner and you're doing that, then you're inviting them into the process of you being vulnerable and saying like, look, I don't know what I want, but I want to learn and I want to be better and figure this out. Then they're able to, have that, I don't know, back and forth with you and create that kind of a bond and trust and whatnot. If it's just you, then just do it, have fun, and just really, I mean, take notes. You can take notes. It's okay. Have a journal and just write down, you know what? I don't like this. Like some women like touching their, like on their inner thighs and their thighs in general. I can't stand it. I hate it. Don't touch me there. I will smack you, How would I have known if I hadn't, experimented in that way? You have to kind of know. And I just encourage women to do that. You take 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. Light some candles after you have a bath or something and just do a body exploration of what you like, what feels good, what are the sensations? Because when you go into an experience with your partner, you should be focusing on what you're feeling in the moment, not what they are doing, what they are feeling, what you're doing to them. It should literally be, what do I feel when this is happening? And you're tying, it's that whole science, you're tying those like neurotransmitter things, are sparking and everything's like, ooh, and you need to be able to tie it to said experience. And then it literally you can retrain your brain. If you're struggling with it and you have that, women, we have the thinking of the grocery list and all the 15 million things we got to do in the time that we're trying to have an intimate moment, and it doesn't work. You have to be able to get yourself out. And so exploring through yourself and recognizing your pleasure centers and knowing can help you in those moments to tune out the rest of the shit too. And really just be able to focus and go like, okay, no, I feel that I'm in this moment right here, because being present in that moment will make like the huge difference. It's a experiment. It's a science experiment, basically. You're going to have to take a step though. You can't just read the books I'm not going to lie.
Right. Because there's two elements to true learning, and there's the academic and then there's the experiential. Like you can't get all the way with just one. It's like that whole, that I stayed at Howard Johnson and all of a sudden I'm a surgeon. The whole idea of like, you can't just read this. You can't just be somewhere. Like you have to really do all of the pieces.
Yes.
So do you have a community, a place where women can come together? Do you have ways to work with you? How is it that someone could come and tap into your knowledge? Because I also know you and I, we love the books, but not everybody has the time, the energy, or the desire to read as much as we have. And they're looking to us, to you specifically for this, to help them guide, like move through all of this to get to what they need. So how can they get that from you?
I do have like an Instagram and a Facebook group. The Facebook, you have to find me on Facebook, or I can get the link or whatever. It's a 18 and older group that I created. And it's just a safe space to be able to ask questions, communicate, or know, basically kind of just open the door that, people can message me and ask questions, or I post things on there. And then I also sell products to help with along the journey of whatever exploration or what you want to do. But definitely my door is always open and for people to just reach out with questions and whatnot. And it's usually through Facebook Messenger and whatnot. So
that's awesome. And the safe space is crucial. And I'm so grateful that you've created that. And I love that you have this opportunity where people can get the resources they need, because as far as the knowledge and the background, I'm sure you have plenty that you can share. And then so that they don't have to continue to start looking all over the place to get, if you want the little small mini vibrator, then to do the first experiment, if you don't really know where to go, then this is a great opportunity to build a relationship with someone who has this knowledge, who has this deep awareness and understanding of the journey from shame to full-on sexual celebration. And so I'm so grateful for you and your community and everything that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Sheila, before we hop off, is there anything else you would like to share or anything you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think the main thing is just that really open yourself to the possibility that there are possibilities. There's so much more beyond what you're probably living your life at. And I think that we live in a very tunnel vision kind of way, and just broaden the perspective more to realize that there are more than one ways to get where we want to go, and there's a lot more enjoyable ways. And just allow yourself to make those decisions, those choices. And if you want to see a difference, put in the work. Really, you're going to have to really kind of go out there on a limb sometimes. And, but it's worth it. It really is worth it. And I can't say that I've ever had a negative experience in that way. As far as just taking the step and going for it, you're going to better your life for it. It's going to be worth it. So.
And I love that you said you would ended with you haven't had a negative experience, because the reality is there's lots of moments that don't feel great. And then when you move through them, you go, oh, okay, I can connect those dots. And in the same, I think it's so true that this tunnel vision idea, this way that people live, me definitely included in that, because we start to believe that this is what we have and that's what life is all about. And so when things happen that seem crappy, we can just be like, well, this is my lot in life now. This is it. This is what I get. And Murphy's Law or whatever. So Murphy's Law works in both directions, by the way. So when things go shitty, and Murphy's Law says things will always go shitty, but when you decide that things are moving forward, or you see that there's greatness within it, you will always see the greatness within it.
Yes. It changes perspective. Yes. Yes.
Reprogram that brain. Fabulous.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheila, for your time today. I truly appreciate you and your goddess energy and everything about what you're doing on this planet.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.